Hello, hopefully this video goes. Somebody wanted me to do a video about what I thought about, actually two people on Facebook, two separate people, wanted me to do a video about what I thought about like the Federal Reserve, well I guess, and this whole Occupy Wallstreet that thing is going on in Seattle. Maybe that's why they wanted me to do it, because I'm in Seattle right now. Well, I haven't seen any of that because I'm not in Seattle, downtown Seattle. I'm in East Seattle, the east side. And oh yeah, and also weren't they in Seattle when they were protecting the NGO or whatever? That was Vancouver or whatever. But I think like 10 years ago they protested something here in Seattle, the G8. But yeah, so I guess Seattleans are into activism and stuff. But satellites. But I did a video about the Federal Reserve a couple months ago, and I added some clips, and maybe I'll add those clips in this video too. I think it's really exciting. I did a video a couple of days ago called I Am Yogananda, Spirit Being, because I felt like I had a spiritual enlightenment last week for the Elenin alignment. Everybody was expecting that the Elenin alignment, supposedly, hopefully, so maybe it's even a hoax. I guess supposedly that's a fucking hoax, but maybe it's not a hoax, and so much failure to communication in the world. But yeah, dude, everybody was expecting some big like earthquake or tsunami or something, but what happens? Well, I get spiritually enlightened, I turn into Yogananda, and then everybody else, they do the Occupy Wall Street. Everybody starts literally protesting on the street and saying, you know, we're sick of this. These Wall Street bankers like using the taxpayers' money to get themselves richer, because we are comparatively losing the middle class. I was listening to Coast to Coast last night. I found it just for the first time at 97.3 last night, and just laying in bed listening to it. And Ian Player interviewed some old guy who wrote a book, and yeah, since the 70s, the super wealthy executives are getting paid 4 times more, and the normal average dude's getting 10% less. So 400% more, 10% less. So the rich are getting richer statistically, and the poor are getting poorer. And I think that's what's pissing people off. People are finally waking up and realizing that, you know, congressmen are bought. And there's that new movie that came out with George Clooney and Ryan Gosling. I think that's about that. And then last year they had that movie with Kevin Spacey where he was the lobbyist. And yeah, I guess congressmen and presidents are bought. You know, I mean, they win their elections. Whoever has the biggest budget, you know, puts the most ads out, wins. It's always been like that, but I think now people are starting to, because they're desperate. I guess 60 million people have lost their homes, and all these people are out of work. And I'm not really keeping in touch with the news, so maybe, I mean, I'm broke off my ass, but maybe like we're in the middle of a depression and I don't even realize it. But yeah, all these people, they're finally waking up. So it's like we're becoming enlightened. We're realizing that the money is what makes the world go around. Money is where the power is. Money, basically, that's what your politicians are supposed to do. That's what the king did since the beginning of time. He's the guy who watches after the money. Who is ever in control of the money is obviously in control of the power. Money is power. You buy stuff with money, so in that sense, no. America actually isn't even controlled by our people who are elected. I mean, I don't really know how economics and politics work. That's not my specialty right now. But but the fact of the matter is that, you know, we have this Federal Reserve Bank that I think was started in 1913, and it's like technically a private bank, but they use all of our taxpayer money. And I guess because it's a private bank, you're not allowed to know what the hell they're spending their money on. And I remember seeing that clip of Ben Bernanke there, and Ron Paul's up there going, yeah, where's all the money going? And he's like, oh, we put it all over the place. We've invested in offshore accounts and all these other accounts. We do all kinds of stuff. We've never lost a penny doing it. And he's like, well, can you tell me where the money goes? And he goes like, no, I'm not at liberty to say. And he asks a couple more questions. He's like, no, not at liberty to say. And he's like, why? He's like, well, do you think that if I told you how we operated our business, don't you think that would be getting in the way of our business? And he's like, Ron Paul's like, I don't think so. We just want to look at it. And so yeah, Ben Bernanke basically said that, you know, if you see if we knew what they were doing with the money, that would mean that we would interfere. So basically what he's saying is, if we knew what they were doing with the money, we wouldn't stand for it. And we'd put an end to it. That's what he freaking said right there. I'll put the video up. So yeah, we've got all these people in control of our money, and we don't know what they're doing with our money. And it's our money though, you know. And so I think we're finally starting to realize that, and so people are rebelling. And I was in the Starbucks yesterday, and there was these two like 60-year-old ladies talking, and one lady's like, yeah, I think we're at the beginning of a mini revolution with all of that. And I think that other old guy was saying that we were in the middle of a mini revolution. I think so. I think we are at the beginning of a revolution. Ron Paul won the primary the other day. He got first place, and I think it was the first primary for the Republicans, and it was in a, what do you call them, a caucus? They were asking the neocons, the ultra conservatives, these retards who think that the world was invented 6,000 years ago and think that we need to be spending $40 fucking billion a year on the war on drugs. And those guys were voting for the dude who wants to legalize the drugs. So I think I think those idiot fundamentalist Christians are starting to grow some brains, you know, and realize that we don't need to ward off the devil by, you know, throwing 50,000 people in jail for having marijuana and smoke and spend $40 billion a year, and actually spend that money on something else, you know, and not take black people away from their families just because somebody found them with a bag of weed, you know, and break up the, you know, black families in New York City and stuff like this, and actually let people be human beings, you know, and have some actual control over their own bodies and the plants that they grow in their house and stuff. And yeah, so I think we're starting to roll. We're starting to get those the wheels rolling. And I think I'm going to make some predictions because we had a big year this year. They overthrew the president of Egypt. They overthrew Gaddafi, like physically overthrew him. They just kicked his ass out. The president of Yemen is going to step down. All these backwards Muslim countries are just toppling over and becoming, you know, real countries, actual countries, one by one, like all in 1 year. And it's happening so fast that I think it's going to continue, and it's going to move into America, and we're going to have our revolution too. And my prediction is that Ron Paul's going to win the presidency. Ron Paul doesn't think that Obama's going to be a two-term president, and we are waking up enough, and I think we're starting to realize that Obama pretty much everything's working the same now financially as it was under George Bush. And I think Ron Paul's going to be the next president, and I think once he does become the next president, he's going to lead a reprogramming of how the money system in the government works. We're gonna transparentize the Federal Reserve, so we know where all that money goes, and we're going to. I don't really know that much about politics, but I think we're going to have to make the money system more socialist, because they have all these you know, the banks, and then the banks charge all these high interest rates to get really rich on those credit cards, and then the people can't pay them off, so then the bank fails, and then the government pays them off or bails them out, because if they don't, you know, the bank is will take down. It's like an integral part of America. It'll take down America. So, you know, so I think if one of those banks fail, you don't bail the bank out and let the same people be in control of the bank. You should bail the bank out, but then put new people in there, and those other people who are in control of the bank, take everything away from them and make them move into like a middle class house and driving around in a middle class car, and stop, because it was their responsibility. That's the whole idea that America is founded on. A capitalist country, free market system. You're an entrepreneur. You go out there and you take risks, and you can get really rich. But if you make mistakes and you fail and you end up owing all this money, you got to pay. So I think what they needed to do, and someone might be like, well, basically, I think the government, if our country depends on this stuff, then I think that should be part of the government. Somebody might be like, oh, but that's socialist. But, well, it was socialist anyway. If these people were such an integral part of the system that they could basically do whatever they wanted, and if they fail, they get bailed out. It was already like that. So, yeah, I think the Federal Reserve, or the people who control the money and stuff, they need to be elected in, or appointed in by elected officials, but not these people. Well, I guess Bernanke is appointed, but not people who get in there and they get to stay for years and years and years. It has to be just like the congressman and the president. They're in there for a few years, and if they don't do a good job, you can vote them out. You don't have to impeach them or fire them, but they just have to keep campaigning. There's not a problem with campaigning anymore. With the technology we have nowadays, it's not that expensive. You don't have to drive a bus and a train all over America and give speeches at universities all the time and put pamphlets and papers and posters everywhere. You just do it on the internet. It's free. It's a lot cheaper, and so you can have these elections, and especially if we have elections all the time and all these different things, it gives the people more of an opportunity to feel like they have power. It's like, oh no, instead of being, oh no, another election, I have to do some homework and find out who I'm going to vote for to be Federal Reserve Chairman. It's like, well, yeah, cool, I get something, I have power, I can vote on somebody else in, yay, we don't like this Federal Reserve guy. So yeah, I think we should. I don't know the exact design of it, but I think that's what's going to happen. That's my prediction. They're going to get in there, and those dudes who know what they're doing, they're going to go in there, and they're going to make it more democratic. They're going to have it so that they elect. And as time goes on, I've actually done a video a couple months ago about the difference between democracy and Republican. I think we're going to become more and more democratic as we go on. We're going to be voting more and more people in, but I think we need to start doing that now. And yeah, so I think we're at the beginning of big changes, not just in the world, but in America. Yeah, dude, somebody might be like, what? We're not going to have Ron Paul this year. I think shit's going to happen fast. If next year's going to be, 2012 is anything like 2011, man, hell, North Korea's going to collapse next year. We're not going to invade Iran. Iran's going to topple on its own. Probably with the help of America. Maybe even next year. And Syria, we're gonna dramatically reduce costs, spending in military, and make that Federal Reserve transparent. So those rich people aren't so rich. So it's exciting. Okay. Oh, and it's kind of interesting because they started the Federal Reserve, and didn't they do that in 1913? And that was like right at the end of the Second Industrial Revolution when they did all the trust busting. When Roosevelt, he broke up, all those little oil companies and made Standard Oil and made them all the little oil companies and all that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of like, well, those super rich people were like, well, what are we going to do? Oh, I know. We'll start this Federal Reserve thing. We can keep control of the money that way. It's because it happened that year. Like right at the beginning of World War I, like where they, I don't know, man, maybe it's just a big conspiracy. Anyways, okay, that's that for that. Let's go.